they were too soft, and that some people within the rank and file of their party believe that they allow the government.
They feel that they are compromised.
They are compromised.
Yeah.
The same accusation, when you listen to Kyei Mensah-Bonsu, the same accusation the NDC used for Haruna and Muntake's leadership was also the same accusation they gave about Kyei Mensah-Bonsu. Doesn't that vindicate David's point that until we have a certain clear guideline where the parties cannot extend their reach to a certain extent, won't we be having all these issues?
Yes, you are right. So what it means is that both sides will need to understand that, look, in governance, you cannot always get everything that you want. Okay? In governance, you can't get everything that you want always. There are times you have to give in for the other to also have their way a little bit. So it is not a win-win-win-win-win-win. That is not good for governance.
But Prof, who's supposed to do that? Because the parties don't understand. And in social media, they will say, how did Haruna allow these people to pass? Haruna has been compromised. He's taking bribe. Is this, that.
Allegedly taking bribe.
Yes. How do we get the parties to understand, as you said, that governance is more about negotiations, it's about concessions, and all that.
And all of that. Yes, so the leadership, for me, I would think that, I think that they need to choose their leaders well. They must choose them properly. You see, both sides, as you are mentioning, if you want to look out for somebody who is so conservatively partisan, things may not work. Things may get grounded. So both parties will need to work more, especially when it comes to leadership. I would suggest individuals who are a little bit in the middle. Yes, you can be an MPP, you can be NDC, that is right. But some of them could be a little more malleable somehow. Okay.
How is that possible? Because even, for example, if you look at Parliament and when they wanted to pass the e-levy, for example, look at all the brouhaha that happened. And then the parties passed it anyway. As we speak, some leaders are saying that when they get the nod, they will do away with the e-levy. It tells you clearly that they agree with Ghanaians that they are not in support at the time with the introduction of the e-levy. Yet it was pushed down our throat.
Yes.
And like Eugene was mentioning, that some of the leaders who are representing these parties, based on your posture in Parliament, even your supporters will say, "Oh, you are weak. You are weak.
You maybe lose your seat."
You get it. So even the ordinary Ghanaian does not appreciate that they are there for our good, not for the good of the political party.
Maybe it is not all Ghanaians, and I think that it may also be a leadership failure for those over there to also keep on allowing, because their role is also to educate. You see, as a leader or as leaders, you are supposed to understand things better, and you are so required to also educate your constituents and also the people. So it is both. You see, democracy goes with a lot of education. We don't leave things naturally the way they are. Both leaders, both the public, everybody needs to be educated. And if you look at one institution that we have, NCCE, that is supposed to be their role, to keep on educating.
They are not resourced well to be able to reach out to the people.
So it is a gap in our democratic development. We need to resource them so that they will be equipped enough to educate the public.
I hear you.
I wanted to ask Prof this, and yesterday, I think, David, you and I were even talking about it, that the posture of the Supreme Court. There are many people who believe that, and I always quote this from the Justice of the English Court years ago, when he said that justice must not only be done, but must be seen to be done. When e-levy was there, a case went to the Supreme Court. The ruling came after the bill
the
had been
event.
assented to and all that. Then many other cases. In fact, the LGBTQI, in fact, the Christian movement, about a couple of months ago, demonstrated against the Chief Justice.
The Saul have been without members of parliament for over 4 years.
Yes. So on the substantive matter, and as David said, SAR, for example, for 4 consecutive years, didn't have representative in parliament. Ascent South, 15 months, didn't have representation in parliament. So when a case comes and you're able to panel, give ruling and everything in less than 48 hours, in your view as a governance expert, won't those who say that the court is biased and doing the burden of the government be justified?
Yes, just as you said, you see, the Supreme Court should be interested in how Ghanaians see them, especially the level-headed community of Ghanaians, how they see them and how they do their work. Because, as you are saying, time is of essence in these matters. Also, of what benefit is it for you to come out with a ruling after the event? Maybe I think even the Domelevo issue.
Yes, it's pending there.
The Domelevo issue as well. It is very bad of our judiciary system. I remember some years back, we had to travel to Ireland for a NUCS program, and we were denied visa over here, and the program too had a certain date. We took our NUCS over there, that's the Irish Students' Union. They took the matter to court, and I think in just about 2 days, the matter was decided for us, NUCS in Ghana here. And we asked them, how could you get this thing so fast? They said, no, the court was very interested in the date of the program. So they had to decide as to whether they need to give judgment to enable us come and enjoy the if it were in Ghana, this decision could have come maybe 1 year after the event.
But having somebody, so looking at the decision by the Supreme Court to have sat and determined a stay of execution, isn't that to also suggest that, like the CJ said, we're in a constitutional crisis, something that Babin doesn't agree with. So they look at the time Afenyo-Markin raised the concerns, they look at government business to be executed, and then it will be like, okay, fine, why don't we sit on this case before the others?
So Dave, the constitutional crisis, let's analyze what the CJ says. Somebody not having representation for 4 years. Another group not having representation for 15 months. Another group not having representation for 3 months. The 3 months is a constitutional crisis. I mean, any fair-minded person will know that this is questionable. And especially when this is the apex court, and their decisions have a certain binding, force.
So based on what he's also saying, let me ask this question directly. And Bagman himself raised it yesterday during the press conference. Do you see an interference from the executive and the judiciary in parliamentary business and affairs and duties?
Well, I wouldn't have the necessary background information to assume that. In fact, he did mention there is a collusion. You and I, maybe we may not have the information based on which he was saying so. But I think that the lesser the judiciary and the executive enters into the affairs of parliament, the best it is for Ghana as a whole.
But you'd also agree with me that the judiciary itself don't just get up and meddle in the affairs of parliament. Somebody has to take a matter to them. And so, for example, I've heard some people say that during the tenure of Speaker Michael Akotey, who ruled on the former MPs,
nobody challenged it.
Nobody went to court with it. Supreme Court did not come. But the lawyers are saying currently that it was wrong on the part of Michael Akotey to have done what he did. But again, be it MPP or NDC, nobody went to the Supreme Court for an interpretation of it. So can we, based on this, say that the judiciary is interfering?
I think it was better for the parliament and all of us that the matter wasn't taken to court at the time, so that you allow parliament to work as parliament. Let us not forget that, as I said earlier, we have 3 arms of government. and each one of them must be independent of the other. These are the critical principles, governance and political principles underline all of this.
What would it take for us to get that? Because even again along the line, you realize that, for example, Speaker Bagwin says, per my stance, I'm talking about the procurement of the services of Tadio Sori, where he says, well, you're saying that I did a criminal act. I should have gone with, let's say, the Attorney General. But the Attorney General himself is somebody who's not standing with me, my decision. How do I get him to represent me? It's a challenge. And I've heard some lawyers also say that, listen, we need to look at how we even do the appointment of the Attorney General and all that.
Definitely. And this is where I was driving to. There must be separation of powers. You know, as I said earlier, all these three arms of government, for the interest, for them to work in the best interest of Ghana, each one of them must be independent of the other. And if we are supposed to get that, then there must be separation of powers. And separation of powers means that you do not get an MP who is also a member of executive branch, and if you happen to be the Attorney General, and the Attorney General is an MP, he is a member of the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. And that is one of the areas of the sources of the problem that we are having now. Now what is happening is this, that because there is no separation, and currently there is that fusion, members of parliament being members of the executive, members of judiciary, and all of that, where do they belong? You see, where do they stand? And for that matter, remember, MPs in the ruling government may want to impress. You see, they may like to impress the executive, the government, for maybe positions and appointments and other things. So that is why in political philosophy, it is not proper for the three arms of government to fuse together.
And again, Babin questions the loyalty of members of parliament.
Definitely.
He questions their loyalty.
Definitely.
But with that out of the way, and usually you have a question, but let me ask this question, then you come in. All that is happening. I know some will agree with the CJ, who says that it's a constitutional crisis. Babin says it's not a constitutional crisis. He emphasizes on that about 3 times and all. How is this impacting our democracy?